So if you only look at revenue per job, you're missing the bigger picture. Customer lifetime value shows which types of customers produce the most value over time, which marketing channels attract the best customers, and where you should focus your retention efforts. So instead of chasing more jobs, you start focusing on acquiring and keeping the right customers. And so what I want to show is how to calculate that. And so the way we're going to do it, and there's a lot of ways to do this, but the way that we're going to do it is essentially calculate the total gross profit by customer, right? Like a lot of KPIs would be revenue by customer, average gross profit, things like that. But we're going to break this down to, is the person currently a member, the customer, and then what type, and then we're going to get the averages for those, member, light commercial, non-member, light commercial, member residential, non-member residential, and then take that. There's a lot of ways you could do this. You could do the first 12 months of revenue if you want. That's another way to do that. And if you want to look at it that way, just shoot me an email and I can explain. But essentially, what you would want to do is you would want to get the minimum start date, and then the first date that essentially you did a project for every customer, and then you would want to do the sum of the gross profit within the first year. And so you would use the minifs function to get the minimum start date, and then you would just add 1 year to that, and then sum if it's in that range using the SUMIFS function. But again, if that's what you're interested in, then let me know. Okay, so we have a data set here, pretty in depth. I mean, I try to make these data sets as realistic as possible. But essentially what you have is you have, invoice number, service dates, customer number, customer type, where are they located, how did you get them, what was the cost to get them, what are they interested in? So all sorts of stuff, churned or active. If they are churned, when did they churn? And then other things over here, customer service rep, dispatcher, tech. And then you have revenue, were discounts applied, what's the net revenue, what were your costs, your COGS, and then what is the gross profit. And the only columns we really need are going to be the gross profit column, which is just going to be your net revenue minus your COGS. And then from here, we're going to aggregate that at the customer level. So we're going to take a unique list of the customer, sum the total gross profit for each customer, and then find out if they're, find out if they're light commercial, residential, and then find out if they've ever been a member. Not if they're currently a member, but if they've ever been a member. Okay, so it's going to take just a little while to do all this, but bear with me. So customer, so first we want a unique list of all of the customers. So right here, you can see unique customer is from the table LTV customer ID. So this is in a table, so it's just going to make it a lot easier to work with. Okay, so we have that. The next thing is we want to calculate the gross profit, which is pretty straightforward. The is member is a little bit difficult. It just takes a different type of formula, but I'll show you how to do that. So paste these here, and then from here, so we want to sum the gross profit if the customer is, one, number 0001, 0002. So SUMIFS here, and then go over to the gross profit column, if you remember way off here to the right, which is right here, comma, and then back to the customer ID column here, comma, and then it's going to be cell B3. And I'll just make that a $sign. Then if you double click, and I'll remove the decimals. Okay, so to find out if they're a member at any point in time, not the most recent transaction, but at any point in time, what you have is you have a member column. Where is it? I'm just going to search for the word member. Because there is okay, right here, active. So if a plan is active, it means they're a member. So all we need to do is find out if there's a 1 here. If there is a 1 in any of these, then it is a member, or they were a member at one point in time. So the way we do that is we can do equals. So I'm going to break this formula. I'm going to start at the end and then go to the beginning, because we're going to do if count is greater than 1, then member or greater than 0, then member, otherwise non-member. So equals, let's just COUNTIF, or COUNTIFS. So COUNTIFS, and we can do this, comma, 1, comma, and then the customer number. Here, comma, and then cell B3. Let's see what I did wrong. COUNTIFS, 1, table. Yeah, no, this is the right formula. It's just a bracket. Well, let's do it again. It's because that's a period. Debugging. Okay, so we have 7 here, and then we have 0, then we have 100. That's why you have so much money you made off this customer. So now we want to wrap this with an if statement, and that if statement is going to be, if this is greater than 0, then yes, then member or non-member. So if, this is just an if statement, if then, simple logic statement, if this whole formula is greater than 0, comma, member, comma, and then this is if false, the then statement. You can do quotations and say non-member. And so now you have that. Perfect. And then the final thing we need to do just to get this range figured out is we need to find out the customer type, which is a simple VLOOKUP. So essentially we want to find the customer here, and then we want to return the customer type here. So it's going to be a VLOOKUP. If you've never used VLOOKUP, it stands for vertical lookup. There's a good chance you've used this before, but if you haven't, then this is how you do it. So equals VLOOKUP. The first thing is, what are we looking up? So we want to look up customer ID. And then the next thing is the table array. Where is the customer ID? It's right here. And then where is the range? Where's the values that we want to return? And it just so happens it's right next to it. But say it was, acquisition channel, then you would go over here. But it just so happens it's right here. And then comma, and it's in the second column. So right, column index number. So customer ID is 1, and then the customer type is 2. And then comma 0, because you want an exact match. Okay, so that has built out everything. The next thing we need, and I'm just going to copy and paste this just to save a couple, seconds of typing. But essentially we need residential, non-member. We need a unique list of these. So if I just copy and then paste, just to save some time, right? So you have all this. And now what we want to do is we want to take an average. So we want to take an average here. So now we've done SUMIFS, we've done COUNTIFS, and now we're doing AVERAGEIFS. So AVERAGEIFS, so you can average this column, comma, where is member, column D, comma, is a non-member, comma, and then customer type here, comma, is residential. And you have the values. Double click. And it just so happens it's sorted smallest to largest because that's how the end result was. Because to make this, it's sort of counterintuitive, but if you want the highest value on top, you have to put it at the bottom. And I don't know why that is, but for whatever reason, that's the way it is. And so, yeah, so we have that. The final thing is we just want to create the chart, which is super simple. Just highlight the name and the average, go to insert, go to recommended charts, and it's right there, the first one. You can make this like super narrow if you want. It doesn't have to be, as wide as the other one. Then we can make the font smaller, and then I'll change the name to this one. And so, yeah, that's how you calculate it. It's pretty straightforward. And, there's a lot of people that might say, oh, this isn't how you calculate LTV. And there's a lot of ways to do it. This is, the total gross profit you've made over the life of a customer up until now, right? Because there's customers you're probably going to, there's going to be a lot of repeat customers. If you have customers on service plans and you want to calculate only that, then that's a different calculation, because then you have, essentially it's gross profit divided by churn. So if you make $100 off somebody and they churn, their churn rate is 10%, then that means they're worth $1,000. Right. And so that's another way to do it. Some people calculate it within 12-month revenue, so that's another way to do it. It's just every business is a little bit different, because if it's like a subscription business, like your phone bill or something, it's like that's pretty easy to calculate, customer lifetime value because you have a bunch of data saying the average customer is here for X number of months. They pay this much per month, and then you divide that, right? And so pretty straightforward. But anyways, that is it on this one. And if you have any questions at databoards.io. And if you want this data set with my solutions, there's a link to download it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email. And also, if you want some help structuring your data, getting insights into your data, any of that good stuff, and if you don't have anybody on your team and you want some, an extra set of eyes looking over things, there's a link to my calendar, or you can just shoot me an email. But anyways, that is it for this one, and I will see you in the next video.